and their intense pain that it was the first time they'd seen him since he was just 2 days old, when they'd kissed him goodbye. I sensed in those tears the ache that he, flesh of their flesh, was being brought to them for a brief visit by 2 strangers who were now his parents, and the affliction of knowing that the joy of loving him as a mother and sister would never be theirs. The joy and the pain of those tears led me to a repentance of sorts. My image of mothers who relinquished their children for adoption, though not as bad as that of the fathers involved, was not exactly positive either. I could not shake the feeling that there was something deficient in such an act. The taint of abandonment marred it, an abandonment that could be understandable and was certainly tragic, but abandonment nonetheless. To give one's child to another, it had seemed to me, was to fail in the most proper duty of a parent, to love no matter what. As I was reflecting on those tears, I came across a passage in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Witness the pleasure that mothers take in loving their children. Some mothers put their infants out to nurse, and though knowing and loving them, do not ask to be loved by them in return, if it be impossible to have this as well, but are content if they see them prospering. They retain their own love for them, even though the children, not knowing them, cannot render them any part of what is due to a mother. The text comes from Aristotle's discussion of friendship. He used the example of mothers to make plausible that, in its essence, friendship seems to consist more in giving than receiving affection. For Aristotle, a birth mother would manifest the kind of love that is characteristic of a true friend, a love exercised for that friend's sake, not for benefits gained from the relationship. It is hard to know that you have a child in the world far away from you, wrote Nathaniel's birth mother in her first letter to us. It is hard because love passionately desires the presence of the beloved. Yet it was that same love that took deliberate and carefully planned steps that would lead to his absence. In a letter she wrote for Nathaniel to read when he grows up, she told him that her decision to put him up for adoption was made for his own good. "I did it for you," she wrote repeatedly, adding, "Someday you will understand." She loved him for his own sake, and therefore she would rather have suffered his absence if he flourished than to have enjoyed his presence if he languished. Her sorrow over his avoidable languishing would overshadow her delight in his presence. For a lover, it is more blessed to give than to receive, even when giving pierces the lover's heart. My image of birth mothers has changed. She who does not care quite enough has become she who selflessly gives. When we parted, a smile had replaced the tears on the face of our son's birth mother. Now it was my turn to cry. Back at home, with him in one arm and an open album she made for him in the other, I shed tears over the beauty and the tragedy of her love. About 3 months earlier, the most extraordinary thing had happened on an ordinary day in an ordinary maternity ward between 3 ordinary human beings. After chatting with us for half an hour or so, to assure herself once again that we were the right parents for her child, Nathaniel's birth mother called the nurse and asked her to bring in her 2-day-old baby. There he was, wonderful to the point of tears, rolled into us in a crib. She took him and held him for a while in her arms, in a last maternal embrace. Then she handed him over to my wife Judy. In one simple act, painfully sad for her and wonderfully joyful for us, she gave him to us, and she gave us to him. She gave us that most incredible gift at about 11 o'clock one beautiful March morning. Just 1 hour earlier, a man in a dark uniform wearing dark sunglasses had given us something entirely different. He had appeared at the window on the driver's side of my car. As I rolled it down, my ears were still ringing with the ominous, evenly paced sound of his boots hitting the pavement. "Driver's license and insurance card." I still did not know what I had done to be stopped by the police. Even when I had first seen the flashing red and blue lights behind me, I had been puzzled. Then,